What's up, world, and welcome to the All Real Show. This is where we discuss issues pertaining to the socioeconomic system and how they relate to everything. Why and how are the fundamental questions. Answer them enough, you get to the truth. I'm your host, Alex, and welcome back to part 3 of my discussion with Deb Della Piana. Some topics we cover on this episode are Deb's 35-year background in advertising, the illusion of choice, what true revolution looks like, and we discuss some forward thinking. So Deb, I know you have a pretty extensive background in advertising. Why don't we start with you telling us some of your experience and insight to how it really works?
The first rule of advertising, just so you know, and the government knows this well because I will tell you right now, there's a gentleman named Edward Bernays, and if you are a public relations person, and I was, there's a place in Boston, I don't know if it still exists because I'm out of advertising now, happily, the Publicity Club of Boston, they had a statue to that guy. Do you know that guy wrote the what he really did was his first book he ever wrote, it was called Propaganda. He rebranded it to be public relations.
I see.
And Edward Bernays, by the way, was helpful to the Nazis as well. All right?
Okay.
So the thing that you need to understand is the first rule of advertising is in order to get a foothold with people, you need to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And this government has learned exactly how to do that.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Deb. You're helping me out here. You're playing right into the transitions. But really, that's, we mentioned it in the introduction, but I do want to touch on that because that is huge on so many levels. And the marketing, one being the main one to me, really, is the influence that it has and how advertising essentially creates perpetual consumption, which is vital. You have to have constant consumption to keep the market-based capitalist system going. That's what it requires, is constant buying and buying and buying and new things and those types of things, whether you need them or not. And that, again, it's a two-part combo. And the part 2 is the advertising. And you have 35 years in that. So I definitely wanted to talk with you about it. And where did you work? I guess in that time you worked with several different companies or one main?
I actually started out at a company called Millipore.
Okay.
They were bought by Merck years later. I worked there for 25 years. So I spent essentially a lot of my career at the same company.
Well, I know Merck is it's like the drug company, right?
Yeah, and Millipore was a manufacturer of filtration devices for you'd say, let's say if you were doing like life science research, like culturing cells.
Okay, yeah.
We had filters to keep the serum, keep particulates out of the serum and keep pollution, not pollution, but particulates and things that would contaminate it so the cells would grow well. We did that on a laboratory level. We sold giant filter cartridges that are sold to pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. We sold water systems, big ones that were used to desalinate, and then we sold small ones that go on the wall in a laboratory to make sure that the water you're making your cell culture media with is pure. So we covered the gamut, okay? And the big fear was, you know what? We make the best filters in the world, and if you're not using Millipore, then you run the risk of, that was the fear we created. You run the risk of losing your research or whatever. So I spent all of those years with them, and then I got laid off after 25 years, and I decided I wasn't going to work in a company anymore, so I decided to start my own little advertising agency, and I did that for several years. And I can tell you that from working with, I worked with startup pharmaceutical companies, like little companies. I can tell you that you can stretch the boundaries of the truth very easily in advertising. Yes. It's not an uncommon practice for you to embellish what a product can do. I can tell you that.
Right. Well, because
there is no freaking truth in advertising, just in case anybody wants to know.
Absolutely not. Well, again, just real quick, something to say about that to put it to people's attention. Think about commercials these days. You know, for example, a car commercial. If there was truth in advertising, what you would have is you would have them show a truck and say, you know, this facts about the truck, essentially. You know, this truck is good for this, or this truck gets, you know, does this, or this, you know, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's like, it's just a spectacle, you know, it's trucks like driving over mud and shit and spinning wheels and, you know, cowboys on the back and shit. It's like, you're not telling me shit about the product. They're just trying to sell you the idea. So.
Right. Or, you know, you see ads for the Jaguars and stuff like that, and they go at 100 or whatever, they go at 160 miles an hour. Who the fuck drives at 160 fucking miles an hour? You know, it's like, give me a break, will you?
Yeah.
It's you know, it's all theater of the absurd to me, all of it. You know, it's like, I can tell you, I had an instance when I was in my old company, and one of the things we used to say about the competitor's product was that, you know, you can denature your cells if you use their filter, because their filter causes the cell culture fluid to foam, and that denatures the product, right? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to shoot this photo, we're trying to shoot this ad. So we have my product on the right and their product on the left. Do you think we could get that fucking thing to foam? We couldn't. It wouldn't foam. So we go and we talk to the product manager of our product. And I said, listen, I can't get this thing to foam in the studio. I can't photograph it unless I can get it to foam. You know what he said to me? Well, can you put a little detergent in there? I go, fuck no. I said, what are you? I'm not putting my name on that. I said, no way. That's not happening. You know? So I wasn't, you know.
Well,
I wasn't taking that, you know, I didn't get fired for that reason. But I said, you know, if my name is going to be on this project, don't ask me to do shit like that. I am not going to go in there and put freaking dish detergent in the media so we can get it to foam.
Right.
I can't get the damn shit to foam. It doesn't look any different than ours. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, that's a lot of people are aware of that kind of stuff. You know, if you like the old, obviously they still do it, but like, for example, advertising has been false throughout, and they've exposed a lot of it. Like, for example, the one that always stands out to me is the cereal. Like, if you see, right, if you see it on the TV or on the picture on the box, it looks all crisp and clean and white. They actually use fucking glue. That's glue in there. Right. And that's why the cereal doesn't get moist and soggy, and why it's sitting on top and looks all, you know, it's not about, that's what I mean. And what you're, you know, pointing out to us is that it's not a.
Have you ever seen a Big Mac on TV and then gotten one in the box?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, food stylist is another whole.
Yeah. They used to paint them.
I've had them in the studio with me, and I've been losing my mind the entire time they were there. It takes hours when you're working with a food stylist, believe me. But there's no end to the bullshit.
I was going to ask that.
It really is amazing.
So was there any, I don't know, like general sort of guidelines, rules that you had to adhere to, or was it basically get this shit to foam or get this shit to shine no matter what, as long as it looks good in the picture sort of thing?
Right. Well, I tell you what, I didn't get the thing to foam. So you know what they did? They went back and rethought the whole campaign. They came up with a different angle because there was no way I was going to do what they were asking me to do. I see, you know? Right. And luckily, I have to say, my boss at the time was behind me on that one. Okay. So, you know.
So then they just came out the new ad, anti-foam. Won't foam on you.
They actually, what they did was they found another problem with their product that we could actually see.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we went with. You know, it's like, you know, at least that's something I can prove actually happened. You know, I don't want to induce foaming because then I'm lying.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, I know, I should say, that's what I'm trying to say. That's hard in any field because there is so much bullshit and deception. And as Jacques Fresco, the founder of Venus Project, one of the little clips of him, there's all kinds. He's another huge influence. we pointed out the zeitgeist. They do mention that's actually what got the Venus Project exposed and exposure was zeitgeist, because that was the first time that it was ever featured. And that was essentially Venus Project's, I'm trying to think of the word, what held them back was that they didn't get the exposure and stuff they needed. But anyway, as he pointed out, among many, many, many other things, but in this system, in, you know, a profit-based market system, what you're saying and what, you know, people need to grasp is that it's all lies. And it's all because, in other words, if there's two stores and we're both selling the same product, if you come into my store and I know that other product is better, I am never going to tell you that. I'm never going to say, hey, look, this, I know you want this, but trust me, go buy that one because that's a better product. You're always going to say yours is the best, theirs sucks, you know, these types of things, because it's a competitive system and you have to be, or your business goes out of business, or you starve off and die. So that's why, again, just to stress, as long as we live in this system, you will always have competitive lying and false advertising and those types of things, because it's zero about the truth. It's all about the profit and selling a product.
Right. So let me tell you a funny little story about human nature as well. Though.
Yeah.
Now I work in a little hardware store.
Okay.
All right. And it's small. It's small it's an Ace, but you know, Aces are all independent.
Yeah.
And, you know, some are big, some are small. We don't all carry the same product, whatever. Mm-hmm. But we sell only Benjamin Moore paint. And we have paint that we have packaged for television shows. Okay. You know, say, you know, whatever the TV shows are on that are Home and Garden and all that stuff, right? You have paint that you feature for just those shows, right?
I got you. Okay.
So we have this paint that we sell. And it's got no VOC, okay? So there's no smell, there's no, you know, toxins or anything like that in the air when you're using it, right? All right, so that was created for the show, but it's essentially our staple paint. Our staple paint has no VOC as well. So this guy comes in, and but the one created for the show, of course, more expensive, right? Mm-hmm. It's in, you know, nice white paper. We have flowers on it, so it looks like nature. And it's got a different name. It's called Natura, okay?
Okay.
This guy comes in. His wife has to have it. It's got no VOCs. I said, listen, I want you to come over here. This is cheaper. This is the paint that we sell the most. Look at the back. It's got no VOCs. I showed him all of the stuff on the back, right? Yeah. It's the one that we sell the most of. That was created for a TV show. We get to charge you $1.99 more. Do you know that his wife would not accept the other one, even though we said it's the same paint in a different can.
Right.
Same paint, different can, okay? I even went to the point of showing the formulas between the two, that it's the same colorant you're putting in, the same amounts in each one. It's the same paint.
Right.
He was having none of it. His wife had to have it. So after they've been brainwashed, you can't even unbrainwash them by telling them the truth, right? They don't want to hear the truth.
Exactly,
you know?
Right.
And it never ends. We're phasing that paint out now because the big TV push is over. What's going to happen now, people are hooked on it. We're not going to be able to supply it. That's the thing, you know? It's like amazing.
Yeah, well, you know, that's something else. I have worked... And believe me, like I tell, anytime I say this, I always have to throw out the disclaimer. I'm not saying it proudly. In fact, it's kind of fucking depressing. But I have worked in retail, in grocery retail, for, gosh, I don't want to say it out loud. No, but too long. Okay, but long enough. I'm actually a meat cutter.
Yeah.
And there's a lot I'm going to talk about at, you know, maybe not now, and discuss with that, and things that huge people need to understand, the realities and stuff like that. Like what you're talking about, there's only so many manufacturers. There's only so many, you know, farmers and producers and people who put things in cans and, you know, businesses. There's only so many. So a lot of the things, and, you know, of course, some might be some real cheap generic, inferior type thing. But a lot of things are just packaged in different packages,
Right.
So, for example, the chicken that comes in, and I hate to name drop, so I'll try not to, but, some might be the main one with the chicken dudes you see on TV with the starts with the P.
Right.
But it's the same people providing it. But then when you open the box, it's that company's name.
Right.
So it's just the same thing in a different package. The same with cans. How many different people you think produce green beans and can them? What? I don't even know, 5, maybe something, whatever. So there's only so many. So you see one with the big green motherfucker, the green, Yep. I try not to name drop and, advertise, but, and then you see the store brand's name. Yeah. I mean, it may not be that particular one. It might be, the B selection next to it. But, that's the thing. There's only so many, and things are just packaged in different ways,
Right. Well, just so you know, with tools, with like drills, Stanley manufactures all of them. Doesn't matter what the fucking name is you're buying. They're all manufactured by the same person. And they're private labeled. That's all that is.
Right.
That's a big business. Private labeling is a huge business.
It is huge. And that's the way really business, the bigger businesses at least do in general. Not only make different levels of product and goods and label them differently, but, these big corporations, they are the same. This is another thing that really is vital and crucial for people to get. Again, you can look it up. People can look this up. There is only, and I used to know these numbers more specific. I should, especially doing this, but there's only a handful of corporations and, of course, people who literally own everything. And the reason it's not in people's faces is because of what we're saying. They don't sell every single company isn't tied to this thing. So they put it under a different name and under a different brand. But it's really the same thing. See, that gives people the illusion of choice. So then
exactly right.
Right. So you go into the grocery store and you say, I don't have to buy that. I'll buy this. That's all right. Because that's just the bad green beans we had. We're selling you for cheaper, but it's still us, Right. Or same with media companies and all this, there's an illusion that there's all these record companies and all these different studios and all that shit. And of course, yes, there's independent ones and whatnot, but the majority of what people see and what people consume is the same entities.
Right. That's exactly right. And you know what? Let's extrapolate that out.
Yes.
Take a look at your politicians. That's an illusion of choice too.
Yes. Good one. Yes, exactly, Deb. Right. See, everything does tie together because everything works the same, so to speak, so, the way the system is dictates this is how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or A, B, C, D. So it doesn't matter if we're talking, green beans or politicians, basically. Essentially, it's the same way because it's in the same confines of the system, AKA box that we live in,
That's right.
Right. And that's, because that's really general what this is about. It is true. Politicians are the exact same way. They work for the same entities. It doesn't matter what label is on them. It doesn't matter what face they have or what color suit or tie they have on. They're getting supplied and canned by the same people.
Right. They exactly are.
I think everybody plays a part. I really do, in good or bad. And I think it really is important what you're doing. Like I said, I've watched your videos. You're on point. You know what you're talking about. You support it with facts, and you're really making people aware and think and realize that this is the reality. I mean, come on. When, like you say, when are we going to stop the charade game? You can't be upset at things and then know the real reason and say, well, I know, but I just want to be upset at things. Because if you are that way, that's fine. Just shut the fuck up and get in the corner and then let the real people who are, accepting this shit anymore and trying to really do something substantial like you come to the forefront.
Right. You know, the thing I want to impress upon people is this. I have never said that standing up right now in this country is without risk. None of that is ever without risk.
Of course not.
It has never been without risk. I mean, you know, but people who make the statement that being on the street doesn't accomplish anything needs to get their facts straight. Because, A, we have never been given anything by any politician in this country. Never. We have always had to go after it. What little strides we have made haven't been made without street action. I don't care whether you're looking at Stonewall, whether you're looking at the gay movement, whether you're looking at the suffragette movement. In both the UK and the United States, women were on the street. In fact, women drove freaking Woodrow Wilson crazy, and that's why women got the vote. Mm-hmm. You know, the anti-war movement, they had people on the street. The civil rights movement, the labor movement, all of that. Right. All of that. All of that occurred with people on the street. And people who say that that's not true are liars, and they know it, and they need to go back and look at their history and accept the fact that that's the only way that anything ever changes. Right. And do I think it's without risk? I don't, but I want to point out one thing. Mm-hmm. Standing Rock. We were all behind all of those people every day. They were out there every single day, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, they decided to take that into the courts, right? Remember that? They shut it down. Everybody went home and they shut it down, and they were the battle's not over. We're going to take it to court. What happened in court? The fucking pipeline is running and it's leaking. You do not win in this system.
Oh, right, exactly.
You know, you just don't.
Well, no, because like we've been pointing out, you know, it's a nice thought, like most things, to think, oh, I'm going to do this, what they have said is the right way or the legal way or all this kind of shit. But, right, what we've been pointing out and stressing is that this right way and the legal way is them. It's controlled by them. The money is controlled by them. The laws and the courts, which are hand in hand, just like the show Law and Order, they're hand in hand. They're tied together in bed together. Right. They are controlled by these people. So, right, they are only going to allow something to go through and actually get overturned or, you know, vetoed or whatever fucking legal word they use, change if they allow it.
Right.
The streets is where it's done, because where else or how else can you have more of an impact? You can't. I mean, you can't. You know, all the call your senator. What? So that shit can.
Oh my God.
So that shit can go to voicemail and they can play games of who can erase the messages fast enough. I mean. Yeah, we don't even know how many calls they get. We're not privy to that. We don't even know. I've called and I've gotten their secretaries. I have no idea where that message goes. Right. I don't think it goes anywhere. How about online petitions? Okay. Yeah. I have signed a online petition now 57 times to get money out of politics. Has that happened yet? No.
It's only gotten worse. It's busy work is what it is.
Right, Deb. Yeah. I kind of relate that actually to like a charity. I said this again in one of the last shows, but, you know, for people who say, I want to help, you know, kids, or I'm going to help animals, or I'm going to do this or that. And they sit there at home and they click and they send $50 to this charity or something. I hate to say it. You didn't help shit. You didn't help shit. I'm sorry. You didn't. In fact,
it's the biggest scam in America.
It really is. It really is. The streets that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying, where else can you have the biggest, most impactful stance and put it in their face? And, you know, granted, believe me, it's crumbs. I'm first to say this, but talking about the yellow vest, look what happened when they first started. Macaroni or whatever his name over there. You know, they just ignored it basically, you know, and they sent the cops and they corralled them and said, okay, you can do it. You know, they let them play the game, but that shit got more and more serious and more people got involved. And then they started demanding real shit and not just take away this tax that you did or whatever. And what happened within, again, don't quote me, but it was soon after they really started basically and took hold, a couple weeks, 2 weeks, maybe something like that. This shit was getting out of control. So they said, okay, Macaroni said, all right, look, we're done. We're not going to tax you anymore or whatever.
Right.
And believe me, I'm not saying that though that's an actual victory in that sense, because I understand the reality. That's how the ruling people have done it all throughout history. When the people revolt enough, they say, okay, we'll do this. Does that shut them up? Nope. Okay, we'll do this. Okay, good. That shut them up. All right, let's go back to what we were doing.
Did you see what happened to him last night, though, the other night?
Who, Macaroni?
Yeah, did you hear what happened to him and his wife? They were at a movie. They stormed the movie thing. They had to rush him out.
Oh, you're talking about Trudeau or no? Is that Macaroni? I'm thinking of Macron.
I'm talking about Macron, yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about Macron in France. The Yellow Vest stormed whatever theater his wife were at. They were on a date.
Yes.
They ruined his date. But, they're not going home. They're not going anywhere.
It's very inspirational, isn't it? I mean,
it sure is.
It is, because that is what true revolution looks like. That is what true change starts as. And I know that's the point you're making, and that's the point I'm making. And if you get enough people on the same page that understand the jig is up, the fucking game is over, we understand this scheme. We understand how money works, that is lent from nothing. There is nothing backing it. You charge me interest for something that you created. And if I don't pay you, you take my real shit, my real car, my real property, my real possessions. Right. And that's the game. That's what the game has been since its inception. And that's what the game will be until we change it.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the streets. It's definitely in the streets.
Yeah. So people say to me, you never bought a house. I go, fuck no, because I don't own it. Even if I buy it, the bank owns the house.
Exactly.
Well, I got to take a 31-year loan or a 30-year loan. I'll be paying for 30 years on this thing. I said, I will never own that house one day. It just doesn't happen. I have a sister right now who's in retirement that has had her house they've lived in that house for 51 years. They're worried about being able to keep it. And they're there. They've been there forever. And they're worried about being able to have it in their retirement. It's all a shell game.
It's a shell game.
I don't buy my cars. I lease them. So I can get rid of them at 36,000 miles and not have a headache. I'm not buying cars anymore. I'm too old for that shit. Yeah. I don't want that kind of debt,
Yeah, it's a game. And that's why in the greedy capitalist, main capitalist society on the planet, the United States, why do you think the dream that they sell everybody is to own a home? Because other than war and the military industrial complex, as far as peasants, that's the biggest investment they get from. Because then you are saying, yes, I will be in debt and I will be in servitude to you for generally 30 years. And if at any point I don't keep being in servitude to you, or even after those 30 years, if I don't keep paying, like you said, you don't really own shit. If I don't keep paying the taxes and all the other little fees that you charge me monthly and yearly to stay in this home that I supposedly own at this point, you will then take my real property that you put absolutely nothing up for. You did absolutely nothing to build, to maintain, to nothing.
They're not paying you repairs, right?
Exactly.
The bank owns your house, but they don't pay for a goddamn bit of upkeep.
Right. That's a good point, Deb. I mean, really, think about that. If you take a loan, everybody can say, yeah, we know we don't own it until we pay it. Okay. Well, you're telling me you don't own it. That's a good point. So, when you need repairs, why don't the bank help you with that shit then? If they still own it.
Right. Well, you can. The bank will help you if you take out another loan.
Right.
Right. If your heater goes and you need to spend, for example, we had our heater and our air conditioner go. The way the systems are built now?
Yes.
You can't replace just one anymore because everything's tied together. So if you just replace your heater, this is what we were told, if you just replace your heater and you keep your central air the way it was, the central air will never operate efficiently because it's not built to operate in this time. The air conditioner is 15 years old.
Right.
All of these have been built differently now. So you literally had to outlay $18,000 to change them both. The bank's not going to pay for that. The bank wanted us to take a loan to pay for that.
Right.
But they own the house.
Exactly.
So again, the way we look at this whole thing is we are like a giant Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
This nation is just a Ponzi scheme.
Well, this nation is really, though, because again, I see things individual, but I look at the whole, and the reality is the world has become a prison planet.
Yeah, it has.
Because the point being, the same way you just said, and it's true, we're a Ponzi scheme nation and we're all controlled. Well, again, if that's the case, then think about it. The whole entire world lives by this same exact system.
Yep.
This, that's the point I was making at the beginning about all isms. This is what people who get on their little soapbox and start saying socialism and fucking I don't know because I don't care. I understand it's a lie and it's a waste of time. But all isms deal with money, which means all isms are corrupt in their foundation, in their structure. It's built into the system, to their idea. It's corruption.
Right.
I want to also, because we've been saying and what we're talking about now is to, even if briefly, jump ahead and have a little forward thinking here. We've been addressing, the structures and the way that the reality is, the world that we live in, from the United States all the way around the world, how it's done, why it's done, which are the two main questions to get to the truth of anything. And in my experience, when you deal with somebody or people who are open-minded and critical thinking, which you have to be, who say, okay, all right, I agree, these things that you're saying, but what do you do about it, right? So how do you fix it? Now, granted, take to the streets, you're right, Deb. That's the mechanism that's going to make it happen. You're right. That's the car, basically, you have to drive to get to the other side. But what would be the transition, right? What would be the idea, the thought? And it's already there. It's already there. It's already been thought out. It's already been planned. It's actually already been physically designed and constructed. Not in a real sense, but the blueprints have literally been drawn out by Jacques Fresco, the guy who basically created. Roxanne Meadows is, I think, the co-creator, but definitely Jacques Fresco was the one with the ideas. He was an architect. He studied psychology, and the answer is there. And what people need to really understand, not only is the answer there, again, we can go on, I'd love to with it, but people who want to know will look it up. Look up the Venus Project. That's all you have to look up.
Exactly. I love the Venus Project.
Yes. And that is the transition, basically. If you want to see what the future looks like, not only could and should look like, but will look like because it's the most efficient. And I'll give you a very quick example. Cities right now, they're total chaos, right? You have shit everywhere. It's like, in order to go from A to B, if I can point to, I could see it, but I have to drive left. I have to drive right. I have to drive. So instead of just getting straight to it. So the most logical way to design any sort of city structure is circular, because that is the closest. Then you can make everything the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if I want to go from one end of the circle to the other, I can go straight through it. Or if I want to go at any layer into the circle, I just go straight to it. So that's just one thing to throw out there, that is the future. And because it's the most logical way. That's why we know it's the future. It's the most efficient, the most logical. And people can look that up. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that and what your thoughts are on how that would look to you.
Yeah, we've had this discussion in the streams. We've actually asked people, in a new world, why don't you give us your vision? It's amazing how many people don't respond.
Yeah.
You know? And I said, it doesn't have to be an all-encompassing vision. Right. I said, maybe you have like one thing that you want to, that really bothers you about our existing system that you would like to see changed in the new system.
Right.
And people, all they want me to do is tell them what the new government's going to look like.
Right.
What are you going to do afterwards? I'm not going to do anything. I'm not here I don't want to be another fucking dictator.
Right.
That's not what I'm trying to do here. All right?
I can answer that question. What will the new government look like? It won't. There won't be a government.
There won't be a government. Exactly right.
Because it's an outdated 200-plus-year-old model and system that's unnecessary.
Right.
Right. So what there will be, just for anybody who's wondering, and whether they, and I say the same thing on my outro here to the show. I always invite people to find this anywhere and leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever. It's all about us. It has nothing to do with me or you. It's about all of us on the planet. And I actually hate that I saw recently that Bernie stole my shit. Talking about it's not me, it's us. I'm like, come on, man. I've been saying that, But that's the truth, though. I mean, regardless of if it's said under a different guise or not, it is us. When you're better off, I'm better off. When I'm better off, you're better off. We are one on this planet. And to think any other way, it's like I said, Deb, nobody knows how we're here, why we're here, those types of things. But anybody with any type of common sense knows we all sprouted from this fucking planet. We're a blip on the radar. We're a flash in the pan. Have you ever seen the pale blue dot image?
I have.
And when you see that, which for anybody who doesn't know, it was Voyager 1, I believe. It was either Voyager 1 or 2.
Yep.
The satellite we sent out, and basically, long story short, partly Carl Sagan as well as some other astronomers decided to have it point back to Earth and take a picture. Its last known transmission to the Earth, and it was a picture of the Earth, and it's breathtaking for me.
Tiny.
It's amazing. It's like you see it.
It is.
But it's a pixel. It's like a pixel of, and that's another thing that I think about. I think about a lot of shit, obviously, but even from that distance, Deb, right? Look how small we are. We can barely see us from that distance. And then you think of the size of the universe, which literally our minds cannot comprehend. You really can't comprehend. Our minds are not even strong enough to compute that. We say shit like 1,000 million light years. It's hard. You can't fathom that. But that's the point, that we are so small. We're so, and I don't want to use the word insignificant, because we have what nothing else has that we know of in this universe. And that is that we can think and form our own thoughts and opinions. Right. And not even opinions. That's a bad thing. But we have the scientific method. Right.
And I can tell you one thing we weren't put here to do. We weren't put here to screw each other over. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
We are either gonna, understand that we're all in this together, or we're doomed. I'm serious. I mean, that's a big gating factor here. We weren't put here to climb over each other to the top. That's not what the goal was.
Absolutely not. I say the same thing. I don't know why we're here, but I know why we're not here. We're not here to kill each other. We're not here to destroy the only home that we have. We're not here to poison ourselves. I mean, it's and to quote Carl Sagan, we are one organism, and an organism at war with itself is doomed to fail.
Yep.
There's no other way to look at it. It's really not. And I think, I hope, I do believe ultimately mankind, our species, is coming around to that realization. Again, years ago, we didn't know if I'm here, you were there. We didn't understand the body. We didn't understand the universe, to the extent that we do. It seemed like resources were scarce because all I knew is this is all the food that I'm able to gather from my, this town or my tribe or whatever. But we're past that as a species, and we understand that the truth that we are one. It is time to start acting like it because that's the only way things are going to really change and get better. Right. Yep. We are one, but we're different parts of that. It's kind of like, again, a simple analogy I try to use is like your hand. We're on different fingers. We might be on the pinky, or I like being on the middle finger, but we're yeah, we're all connected to that main part. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah, we're going to be different in that sense. We're going to think differently, and because we're on different levels, we're on different wavelengths, and we know that we're all energy. So that's why they can put brain things on your brain. That's something how stuff is true, because you can't fake that, Right. So they put a brain thing on you, and I think, ooh, I like that fruit they just showed me. It's going to fire in my brain a certain way. I can say, I don't like that you just showed me, but you know better. And, right. So it's just, I don't know. I think that's vital for people to get on that page, that we're all one. We're not going to think the same, and but this is the only home we have. And we don't have to think the same. No, we don't have to. We don't have to think the same. That's the great thing about it. Exactly. We don't have to think the same, right? Well, it's like what's the song, all different kinds of people make the world go around, or whatever. Yep. Yeah. And it's true. The government wants us all to think the same. They want us to all think the same, keep us in a little box, keep us controlled. We don't have to be those people. We don't have to. We can be the architect of our own future. 100%, Deb. We have to get them out of the goddamn way, though, okay? Exactly. So when I say to you they have to be driven out of Washington, I'm not talking about in a voting booth. Right. So, it's a reality. I mean, I really feel like, I listen to, I don't follow anyone. I do read Chris Hedges, mm-hmm. and there are times when I think he's being a little too generous, saying that we have, he's saying that we're on our way down. Okay, all empires collapse, no matter how you look at it. It's either going to be us or it's going to happen without us, one way or another. Yes, it will, yes. All out-of-controlled empires collapse. And, he's saying 10 to 20 years. I honestly think 20 years might be a little generous at this point. Yeah. If I look at how fast it's progressing. So, the one thing I tell people, they say to me, well, if it's going to happen anyway, why bother? And I'll tell you what my canned answer is. Right. When it does happen, who do you want on top? Us or them? Because if it's them, if that's what happens, they'll even be worse then than they are now. I promise you. Oh, of course. Yes. And I understand that defeated way of thinking. I've been there. You have to be strong. You have to keep checking yourself and saying, what the fuck am I alive for then? Right. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why any of us are here, but I know why I'm not here. I'm not here just to be a fucking, I'm smarter than that. I'm stronger than that. And that's what people have to tell themselves. Right. The oppressors in politics and stuff like that, those are the ones who say you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, and we're going to tell you that in school, then we're going to tell you that at work, and then we're going to tell you that on TV. You're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, and just lay down and fucking die. And that's, some people, again, everybody's on different levels. Some people have it, some people have to work for it, some people... I've always had that, and I will until the day I die. I am not going down without a fight. And neither should any of us. Use that tool between your two shoulders. Think back to when you were a child and that sense of wonder, curiosity, and oneness you felt with everything. It's still there. It always has been. You have more strength and creativity than you even know. Utilize it. As always, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you got something out of it. That's what this is all about for me. Trying to inform, educate, and inspire people. The sooner people realize the veil of lies we've bought into and that we already possess all the knowledge and technology we need for sustainability and abundance for everyone, the sooner the transition can start. Please feel free to email, follow, share, comment, like, subscribe. I welcome any and all feedback or support. And I hope you'll tune in next time for another episode of the All Real Show. We are one.